because we had tractors and we were doing all the work on all the farms around the area.
Yeah.
And my brother and I, and you know, we worked every hour there was, ploughing, tilling, harvesting, and all the rest of it. But the whole thing changed. Of course it did. But my grandma Burrow was born in 1854, and she lived because my aunt built Treneer, you see.
Oh,
so
yes.
We were right under those.
Yeah, where Al Sutter lives.
Yeah, that's right.
Ah.
Yeah. It was in our family until Ruth sold it to the set of the suburb. Yeah, and so therefore I heard a lot in my childhood and growing up. I could sort of say, well, I had living memory going back to the 1850s.
Yeah, I know. Well, I remember when I was a child, although I was obviously very young, I had a grandmother and my grandmother could remember her grandmother warning her about Napoleon Bonaparte. You know, the bogeyman will get you. So that's what got me interested in history, because I thought, I know somebody who knew somebody who was alive at the time of Napoleon, and the memory went back, and I thought that was amazing. It makes you feel as if you've got a hand back into history, doesn't it?
Yeah, my grandma knew R.D. Blackmore, you see, he wrote the one of doing.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got all the books and leaflets, because I used to live in North Devon near the Brendan Valley, you know, near the Doon Valley.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Colin.
And she had a signed copy of it.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, so what was her full name?
She was Mary Ann.
And was she born a Burrow or?
No, she's born Gibbons.
Gibbons. Yeah, and she married which Burrow did she marry? What was the name of the
my
Burrow?
grandfather.
And what was his first name?
Frank. But she was married first of all to his older brother George, and they were farming at Hudry here in the parish.
Yes.
And they'd moved from a farm at Witheridge actually.
Yeah.
Into there, and he died in 1890 of pneumonia. And then his youngest brother married his widow.
That often happened, didn't it?
Yeah, he'd actually stated in his will, he sort of requested his youngest brother Frank to care for his widow and 5 children. And so they had 1891, he died in 1890. 1891, they had a most horrific blizzard that started about the 3rd week in March and went on till May. And so he came to help his sister-in-law with the farm.
And that was when she was at Hudry.
They got married.
That's lovely, isn't it?
It's lovely.
Because love grows out of those sort of relationships, doesn't it?
My grandma used to say what a good man he was, and that he looked after his brother's family as though they were his own. They had 3 more sons, but...
and which one are you descended from?
I'm descended from Courtenay. I'm from Frank, the younger son.
Yes.
And from his second son, Courtenay.
Ah.
I was Courtenay like the Earls of Devon name.
Yes.
See, we're not the more common one. I don't know. It's run through the family a bit. There must be some link somewhere, I think.
There must be. There's got to be a reason for it. You can't just sort of use people's...
I called my second son that middle name, and he called his son that middle name.
Yeah.
And his son has called his son that middle name.
It's a fine name, though, isn't it? I tell you what, in a few weeks' time, well, in April, I've got to give a talk to the Witheridge Ladies Circle about First World War, about the impact on call-up. Have you got any... Can you tell me anything about Witheridge stories about, you know, during the First World War or before or after?
Really. You see, I was born 1924, you see, which is only a few years after.
Yeah.
So, the First World War was people had come back, and there were these ex-servicemen working on the farms.
Oh, you remember all that?
I remember all that. They were telling us all the stories.
What sorts of stories did they tell you?
Well, always the nasty ones about the Germans. But, and how they got their victories at times, and there was one man who worked on the road and he'd been gassed.
Oh.
And I had an uncle, one of Mom's brothers, who was in Royal Army Medical Corps, and he was in charge of an ambulance, horse ambulance it was called. And he was shell-shocked and left for dead. And a wonderful story attached to him. He was rescued, brought back to the military hospital of Southampton, but his mother didn't know where he was. There was no records of him initially, and they weren't informed. And so she enlisted the help of the MP, which was George Lambert in those days.
Oh yes, George Lambert, yes.
And found him and went to Southampton and said she was taking him out. They said, well, if you do that, then our responsibility is to ward him totally finishes. He said, well, I'll look after my son. He'll get better if I can bring him home. And he did. His mind recovered and he became a most outstanding businessman.
And he was from Witheridge?
He was from Black Dog.
From Black Dog, yes.
From here, a tree.
Yeah, a tree. Ah.
Yeah, so there must be stories like that.
That's it, yeah, it's that sort of human, it's the human impact. We know all the numbers.
I know that my mother's father had horses commandeered.
Oh, do tell me about that.
Well, he farmed at then farm, Morton Bishop, just 350 acre farm in his day. And, but he had a tractor in 1917, one of the new imports from the Fordsons.
Yes.
But they were allocated, I think, to larger farmers. But he had some of his best horses commandeered, and that also happened.
And did any of those horses ever come back again?
I never heard that they did.
No.
I thought of it about war horses.
Yes, yes.
There must be many stories like that.
Yeah, but it's those. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. There's so much. I mean, obviously, I'm very conversant with the Second World War because I was involved in it. I was in Home Garden.
Oh well. Oh, that's going to be that's going to be so interesting because so many of the people who come to listen, their uncles, fathers, grandparents will have. Yeah. They'll connect with their memories as well.
I am of the Black Dog and Puddington together were a company, but we were two separate lots. And as far as I know, there's only two of us left. There's Dennis Palfrey, and he's now very, very frail. Mm. And I'm the only active one who's left that I know of out of all of them. Is
that Dennis who's married to Stella?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm going to see them in a minute, actually. Yes.
Yeah, they live on the bungalow.
Yeah, because they go to the Heel Lane Chapel to the lunches. Yes.
Yeah.
They're a lovely couple.
He's very frail. He's about 5 months older than me, but he's very frail.
Yeah. Perhaps you ought to give him your diet sheet. Yes. Yeah. Well, you're looking ever so well.
He reminds me, though. He did Sunday. I saw him Sunday. I went to chapel Sunday morning, and he advised me. He said, you know, I'm older than you. And I didn't like to say, yeah, but I think I would beat you in a race.
Oh, my word. I think you would, actually. You're looking, you're looking racing fit.
Well,
oh, that's marvellous.
As the old Devon expression, peart.
Yeah.